Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and if you're watching this video, we're going to be looking at reviewing the 5 ways in which we describe how the motion of an object can change. So prior to this, you guys were watching a lab where ping pong balls and jar lids were being knocked around and moving, and you had to make observations about, well, how is an object's motion changing? You guys did a really good job talking about how the force impacted an object's motion, but we're going to take a big step back and we're going to review the 5 ways we describe how an object's motion can change, okay? From here, we're then going to dive into task 2, where you guys are going to take what you observe in our mini lab here and kind of make your final observations for how we describe how the motion of an object can change. Now, the goal here is to not only identify the 5 ways, but then to apply them and begin thinking about, well, how does the change of an object's motion, how will I use that to describe what's going on with the pod and with the loss connection, and more specifically, how to help the ground team understand, well, what happened with that pod during those lost times. So we're going to obviously move on to the mini lab that you see here on the left, and then from there, we're going to look at the 5 ways that motion can change. So the first way we're going to look at is actually an example that has been given to you and will be given to you in the next task, okay? So this is an example, right? But this is the first way that we describe how an object's motion can change. So if you notice, we got a golf ball here, we got a pan, and we're going to be moving this in 5 different ways so we can then describe how the pod is changing. So let's take a look. So to begin, if you notice, the object's motion is constant, meaning it's the same. It's, well, not moving, all right? It has 0 motion. And to describe a change in its motion would be to say it starts moving. So the very first way that we describe how motion changes, okay, is by going from a position of not moving to moving, okay? Now, that's our first example. That's the one that's given to you. So now let's look at our second example of how we describe how motion changes, okay? Our second example would be if motion was occurring with the ball, and this occurred. So that would be the second way in which we describe how motion changes. Take a second, think about what just happened. How did the motion of the golf ball change? Okay. The third way we describe how the motion of an object changed. So notice our golf ball is moving. And here's the third way we describe how the motion of an object changes. And that would be it. Take a second. How is that maybe different from the last one? How is that maybe different from the first one? Again, we had our first, second, and that was our third. So let's go ahead and look at the fourth way in which we describe how motion changes, okay? So let's go ahead and get our golf ball moving at a constant speed. Okay, we got a nice constant speed going. So this would be the next way in which we describe how the motion of an object changes. Hopefully we were able to see that difference. So how was that maybe similar or different to the first couple ones? But at this point, we've seen the fourth one. Now let's go ahead and look at the fifth and final way in which an object's motion can change. So we'll get our object going in a constant motion. And this would be the last way in which we describe it. And there it is. So we have our 5 ways. So the first example, obviously, we go from not moving to moving. From here, we could then change its motion. That would be the second one. From here, we could change the motion again. We could change it another time. And the last one we could change again. There it is. There's all 5 ways in which we describe how motion changes. So your job to take those observations and now apply them to the next task, okay? So task 2 will then ask you to jump into our Amplify activity to review what you just observed and to record the 5 ways in which we describe how motion changes. If you have questions, reach out to me. Otherwise, good luck.